Thanks for coming, Victor. Showing up is about uncovering what it takes to get to where we want to go by learning across the various fields of design, business, technology, and the arts. So welcome to Season 2. We are building this under the capsule, Punching Above the Weight.
So maybe you can do a quick introduction of yourself to the audience.
Sure. My name is Victor. I'm a partner for Creamier and Sunday Folks, and at the site I run a design agency.
Great. So how has your day been today?
As with all business owners, it's been a long day. Yeah, you never know what's going to happen. Even though you plan your day, things come very quickly, and you just got to get things going. Yeah. But yeah, it's been a long day. Looking forward to the weekends.
What was your original plan and what actually happened?
As with most plans, I prefer to just sit down and get my work done, but it never happens that way. Chances are you get put for meetings. We had a sudden impromptu interview at a new shop Ion, so we had to go down and make sure that everything is okay. Then my contractor put me aside, say, Victor, you need to settle the tiles, So I had to drive down all the way down to I think it was near Bedok area. Yeah, so it never happens the way you plan, but you still got to finish the work. So we should explain why usually the working hours tend to be a bit more elastic, and you work longer. You work longer than you actually expect to work in a day.
You mentioned that you'll be heading back to work after this. You work till 2 a.m. every day?
2 to 3, I try not to, but the kitchen is rushing products at the moment. So we're sending out, we had the order from RWS, so they told me that it's ready, but at this hour there's no driver. So I'm going down to the central kitchen to collect some things and send it to the office. So yeah, and then I'll probably finish up some paperwork, finish the emails, check my replies from my staff.
How did you transition from a designer, right, to ice cream magnet?
No, not magnet. You never expect anything though, I guess. We did it quite unexpectedly, actually. We shifted to Toa Payoh and we said that there wasn't a nice cafe or even ice cream or coffee to drink. So previously we were based in Chippy Garden, so there was everything there. So when we saw this small little shop as business owner, always business idea, hey, we should open something here. So yeah, it's across my home. And probably the most friendly thing was ice cream, because we wanted to do something that makes people happy. And being a father of 2 also, I was like, hey, yeah, it's nice though, because we kind of like the fact that it engages the community. You're doing something that makes people happy. It doesn't seem wrong when you just started though. It's like, until you start running the business, then you realize, this and that, and you realize that it's not so straightforward. But yeah, I think the transition was quite a huge jump. We used to be still running the agency at full flow. So my partner comes in at 5 a.m. to make the ice cream. My wife comes in the afternoon to take over the shop, and I'll close the shop, in fact, for the first 6 months. So I was like finishing my work, grab a quick dinner, take over the shop, run the shop until around 8, 9. Back then we closed a bit earlier, and by the time I reach home, it's around 10 to 11. So it's like you really need to speed up because you need to be at the shop at 7. So I got to take over the whole running of the shop. And then the kids were still very young. I think they were 2 to 3 years old back then. So that was really no joke. So you sacrifice a lot of time, and there's a lot of sacrifice, I guess, as when you try to do something different. I think you get so comfortable doing what you have been doing for the last 10 years, running agencies and doing design work. And suddenly you have to change it. You have to operationally, what are we buying ingredients? Who is doing the shift? Who's running the shift? Do you look into marketing? Do you need to do? There are a lot of things that suddenly come to our mind. And while you're also being the staff, you're also being the boss, you're also doing the finance, which I don't do the finance. But yeah, you carry many hats. And I think you just need to be adaptable, I guess. Change, I guess.
So that was like you were running them concurrently, even at the start?
Yeah, even at the start. So yeah.
That's no joke.
No joke.
And the kids.
The days where you just sit down, what have you got yourself into? It's not a joke, it's like, But we were prepared because I think the upfront cost to set up wasn't cheap. You had this expectation, and when you go in and realize that, you need this much more. And so from like maybe you're thinking of maybe 50,000 became like almost $500,000 kind of investment because of the equipment, And being designers, we always say, oh, you must do it properly, right? So you cannot buy the lousy equipment, you must buy the best coffee machine. Not say the best, but the most important machine, your ice cream machine, you've got to get a good one. So there are a lot of huge learning curve. Not having been inside the F&B, I think the change was actually quite, not just for me, I think my partners too. So,
Oh, your partners are not from
except for
F&B.
Audrey. Audrey was also a designer, but she was trained as a patissier. So for a while, and that was why we roped her in, because we need somebody with the knowledge of the kitchen. I think without any experience, it's going to be very tricky. Yeah. So we actually spent like half a year trying to learn how to make ice cream and create our own formula, because we do not want to do the cut paste stick kind of thing. So there are a lot of options where you could just buy the mix, I call it the pre-mix kind of thing. You put chocolate, it becomes chocolate. You put vanilla, it becomes chocolate. So there's this base flavor that people who are not, how would I say, not too crazy to experiment or not willing to do their own, because there's a lot of calculations involved in making ice cream. So we did it that way. So we spent like half a year inviting friends over to the studio, brought all the ice cream over, do tasting sessions while you're running the agency. Yeah, no joke, no joke. Now they remind me of this.
And your kids were 2 and 3.
Yeah, 2 and 3 years old.
Wow, that's crazy.
Actually, that was the hardest part. Yeah, coming back home, and then by the time I come back home, they're in bed already. So we try to spend a bit of time in the morning, but we're lucky we had our in-laws to help, so that was really a godsend. Which is why I was staying at Choa Chu Kang for a while, because I really need my in-laws to help to take care of the kids. Yeah, the drive was crazy though. Choa Chu Kang to Holland B, where my old agency was, and the kids were still studying there, to Toa Payoh. It's like an hour's journey, on the rainy days. Oh, just go back and forth. So you become a bit numb, so let's go.
Can you describe a little bit? By hearing what you're saying, I'm starting to form a mental picture of your work ethics. How do you describe your work ethics?
Probably coming from a point where I always believe that nothing cannot be done as long as you don't try. As long as you try, until you try hard enough, then you realize that if it's really not doable, and that's where you realize that okay, I should stop doing it. But if you don't try, you never know. So it's like trying to pour yourself as much food and you see how much you can take it. And being at the age of, I think back then was 30 something, you still feel like you could do a lot of things. And it's a bit of a waste if just keep, I wouldn't say that it's wrong to keep doing the same thing. I kind of enjoy doing it, which is why we still do design. But the fact is that if you don't try to change, the challenge isn't there. And that is what we would say backside itchy. Want to do something different. So it's like, yeah, as always. But you do learn along the way. And we realize that it's useful to have a group of community and friends who actually are there in the same industry that actually can share things with you. So you're never doing it alone. If you choose to do it alone, then you're in trouble, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, it's such a big such a big pivotal move, right? From running a studio to running an F&B ops, where you have to figure out a lot of things. Obviously, you have grown a lot since. Obviously, your journey has been quite exciting, I'm sure. Have you found yourself saying, we're fucked, it's over?
Actually, thank God we haven't said that though. It'd be scary though. We were prepared to, for me, I was telling my wife or my partner, I said that we will know that this business is doable within the first year. And by the second year, right, you should know in your heart that whether you can run this business. It's not too difficult actually. So by the third year is where actually you notice a lot of business will actually fold by the third year, because they'll decide that it just isn't worth the effort, because you usually take this 2 to 3 years period. So thankfully, no, not yet. I hope not. Hope we make the right decisions along the way, but you never know, I guess. You need a bit of luck in business.
In your journey, which are your euphoric moments?
I think was when we were forced to move out to Toa Payoh. It was quite dramatic. So it was during Chinese New Year, and the landlord said we need to talk. I said, oh, okay. Is it the lease again? You don't need to increase rent again. So it's fine. But then she said, oh, we need you to leave the premises because we want to. She's a nice lady, she's an old grandmother, and I think they tend to sleep early, and our business is always night. So for that moment, I was like, oh shit, my God, we need to find a new place. But subsequently, when we start announcing, because we had a duty to let our customers know that we have to move out. We had another outlet back then, 2 outlets actually, so we're not too worried. But Toa Payoh was always a bit more sentimental, so we were keen to find a place. But the moment the news came out, it was like, wow, we get so many emails, comments, and telling us that, oh, we found a place for you, please come here, please go there. I said, yeah, to the fact that you run a business for, that back then was around 8 years, you would think that, oh, it's just a business. But then you realize that we have people coming and say that, hey, I pato at your place, then I got married and I bring my kids here. So it became so sentimental that you said euphoric. The moment where I went down and I realized that, for the last 1.5 months before we closed, the queues were amazing, I was like, wow. In the afternoon, 2-3 p.m., we're still queuing out all the way to the playground. I said, wow, okay, we must have done something right, I guess. But that was like, it's touching up, because we said, wow, so many customers actually willing to come down, even though later we were told that we found another place. I hope they don't think we're scamming them, but it's true, we really didn't have a place back then. And you realize that the business has become more than a business. I think it has become a part of the people, the lives of the people around it. So I think that was the part where we go back to early years where we said that what was the focus of the business, actually more on the community. So I think that it somehow works a bit. So yeah, I think euphoric. Very tricky.
Yeah.
Euphoric.
How do you keep yourself centered? Like this ship must go on. And then you're still doing your design agency.
When you realize that you're taking care of a lot of people, your staff, the guys that's working with you, they are a bit of your extended family. You realize that you can't let them down. You got to keep going. And I think one of the reasons why we start doing overseas and expansion and opening shops was also mainly because of my people. So I think that we wanted them to feel that F&B is not a dead-end business. That there is a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of options that being in the F&B. And the only way to keep people or make people keen to join you was to make sure that the brand is growing. They want to feel like they are with a ship that is moving, not stuck in. Because we had the hardest time when we only had one shop back then. We couldn't find a full-time staff for the longest time, because back then if you ask people to work in the ice cream shop, where are you working? You work in the ice cream shop? The parents would say, I got staff with degree, you get a degree, you work in the ice cream shop. Regardless of what roles they're in, the parents may not feel it that way. So the whole idea is to change this whole image that we are now pushing towards 5-day work week for a lot of my staff, even for the kitchen staff, which is actually a bit rare. Most of them work at least 6 days and it's full days. So we need to change a lot in the system to make them feel like they are not just working. They have to feel that they are also part of the company. And this is the reason why we said that the ship must carry on. Whatever shit happens, we will take it. But the staff, do not touch the staff. Yeah.
How do you obviously your priority is to look after the staff and the family. What about yourself?
No, if they are well taken care of, I'll be fine. You have to see the bigger picture. I think once as bosses, once you run the business, it's no longer just about you anymore. I think it's you have to force yourself to see the bigger picture, even whether you like it or not. I think as bosses, you guys would know also. And also to always sit down and say that, what's our plan for the next few years? How do we see the business grow? And what is our, not say strategy, but more of because the team also needs to know. So we have a deck for our guys also, welcome to Creamier, what this whole business is all about, and we came out the line moments of happiness, These are the little things that I would say rooted. So for myself, these are things I'll do for myself also. Because you need to be happy with what you're doing. Otherwise, it's all these effort that you put in, it will come to nothing if you don't have a direction. Yeah.
As a successful entrepreneur, each entrepreneur will have their own set of golden principle or golden rules. And this could be like always be on time, or making sure you finish up your work at the end of each day. Do you have any golden rules, maybe one or two, that you keep to or abide to quite religiously, and because you feel that it's really important?
Successful, no, I think we're still trying and learning. But That's one thing I always believe very strongly. If you want to do the things that you plan to do, you got to get it done properly. You got to make sure that, I think the other thing is also integrity. Regardless of what you do, where you are, I think integrity is something that stays with the person. So we have staff that comes and go, you put in your effort. It's a very small community. If you don't do it properly, you try to be funny or you have no integrity in what you do, I think that is the worst kind of attitude you want. It's a very different, how I put it, running a F&B and running an agency, we have very different set of rules, I guess. How I put it, maybe in simple perspective, when I was doing lecturing at TP, right? So you try to impose your agency kind of rules with your students. They cry. I realized that, it's very different. You need to be nurturing. You need to, but with agency, you have to push very hard because you have no choice. You're accountable to the clients. You've got to get the shit done. So these are things that I realized you need to be a bit more flexible. Rules change, but certain things don't change. Integrity, getting your things done properly. I do not question you, but you don't go under the table and do anything stupid. That doesn't reflect very well. And at the end of the day, I used to tell my wife, my partner, I said, we used to meet clients and we're happy. I said, must always get the client. I said, but I said, even if you don't get the client, you make a friend, it's also fine. It's part of being a person, I guess. Yeah. So in Chinese, they say 会做人. I think that is quite important. Hey, I can ask questions too, right?
Can.
So how about you guys, asking me questions on running of the business? For you guys, you have run the agency for quite a number of years, and I would say that you guys are doing a very good job. What is the motivation or even the directions that you guys are actually moving ahead? I bet you got plans, the next 3 years. You used to be very ambitious. You used to say 5 years, 10 years. We have shortened this a lot because we know things change, like COVID happens and you never could expect that. So we shortened it to at least 2 to 3 years. We said that is more realistic. So how about you guys?
Do you want to go ahead first?
Well, I guess Yah-Leng is behind a lot of the studio's energy. She's like showing up is her idea. But what's really good about her is quite similar like you, like integrity in getting things done. She will make it happen. I think that has been very helpful for us. In terms of clients, been quite interesting. I think generally the client has been, over the years, been more and more sophisticated creative buyers. So they understand certain requirements in terms of change limitation and scope creep, that sort of thing. So generally that has been good. But the thing is, the business is still pretty much the same. It's still providing
design.
commercial design,
Yeah.
yes.
Do you see a lot of change happening in the next few years? Why I ask you this is based on my experience. Okay, I've toned down a lot of design jobs that we do. So the last experience that I had was because we were doing our pop-up at Shanghai. And I wouldn't do my own marketing there because it's seriously scary. The agencies that I went to talk to and I meet and see the things they do, I was a bit like, wow. The speed that they're doing, the quality that they're doing, and the efficiency that they're doing, I said, wow. And the whole change in terms of like the marketing tools that they're using for their channels sort of overwhelmed me a lot. I said, wow. I said, go back, I said, goodness. I'm a bit concerned because we know that I would say we are more based on print first because I was more of a graphic design trained. So my love is towards that direction. But I also noticed that when we started working, digital design was already starting up. And my friends who did it did well, but I still love what I'm doing. So I said, I'm fine. I don't need to join you guys to do that. But this change is something that is inevitable. And the moving of all this industry towards a more digital platform is something that will affect a lot of studios and mainly agencies that are doing very strong, more graphic based. So that's why I'm curious also. How do you actually foresee, and is there anything that you guys are planning or changing?
I think
towards?
For us, what keeps us going, I mean, next year is our 15th year.
Wow.
Yeah. And yes, it's quite a big milestone. And I think every few years, I think for me, I'm never somebody who will keep something status quo. Your question being what will change for the next few years, I really think, yes, print is I wouldn't say it's dying, but it will remain, but there will be a bigger role for digital media. And so, I mean, what's currently happening in my studio is, I mean, as we always encourage our designers to learn new stuff, we always push them out of their shell to go do something new. So I think the last 2 years during this COVID season, we've been sort of doing a little bit more on the educational side. I mean, if you follow us, we did a summer school, we did some kind of, all these things. That's also, the premise is also because we are interested to take on these new skills, whether it's programming or some kind of motion graphic tools that we want to pick up, as well as some other tools that will better inform us for design work in the digital era. Because especially during the COVID, right, a lot of the businesses have invested more in the digital side of things. So that's something that we cannot ignore. And like Instagram, SEO, all these things, right? These are things that has been evolved, and it will be evolving. And we're just talking about metaverse.
Yeah, metaverse and all
crypto.
the business going.
Yeah.
Crypto.
So these are things that we're still exploring. Also, I mean, just yesterday, Tim and I was just talking about that, and today with the last meeting that we had this afternoon, we're still talking about that, because how do we integrate that to a project? It might seem very forward, but it's really not, because other people are already doing it. Maybe not in the design field, but I think as a design practice, back to your question, I think we need to continue to keep ourselves updated with all these tools. And I think there needs to be the energy to not stop wanting to know more. And then, I mean, I truly sort of am inspired by you for you being able to sort of cross over from a design to a sort of a different industry, and you made it work. And I think we've been trying to do that as well for since quite a while also. And so we're also exploring that, because I think as a designer, right, we create brands, especially for us, we create brands for our client, and most of the time they're very successful. And so we always ask ourselves, we can also solve business problems. We always give them business insight. Why can't we do it for ourselves? So that is always a premise for that. And very similar to you.
You're your worst client.
Yeah, we are.
You are your worst.
Yeah.
It took me the hardest time to do things for myself. I was like, when we opened Creamier back then, right?
Yeah.
I think only some people know. For the first month and a half, I had no logo on the shop. My partner was like, Victor, I said, give me some more time. Back then, I still got all the design work, so I was a bit pissed off, because I was trying to create the font from scratch. I was like, don't disturb me, And you're the hardest on yourself. So actually doing for your own business, when you are your own client, actually it's the hardest. Trust me. You become so critical. You feel like the decision you do is never good enough. And you come to learn to a point you need to draw a line, and that's okay. Go. You got to go already.
Yeah.
There's no time, Victor. You got to just keep going. Yeah. But yeah, I think designers we solve a lot of problems. So I always tell my staff, we are problem solvers. You need to be strategic. You need to think a bit more than just. And it's a wonderful job, because it's anything, financial, banking. Well, financial is tough, but yeah.
Yeah. Hope that answers your question.
Yes. Cool. Thanks for showing up and sharing with us your journey.
And how you punch above your weight. That was really punching through.
Is there any closing thoughts that you would like to share with the audience?
Oh, I haven't really thought about the closing thoughts though, because the journey is still going on. And right now it's actually, for me, I think as all business owners, we're always thinking what is going to happen next for us. So we are constantly trying to, how would I put it? In the design agency, we say we look at what people do, and then we observe, and then we try to understand how things are going. I think same for any other business, same for F&B. We are constantly trying to understand that what we are doing now may work now, but maybe 5 years time it doesn't work. So it's not so straightforward. And I believe that if you decide that just to keep to what you're doing keeping still is never a good idea. So, but that is the tricky part also. You said punching above. I said, wow, sometimes you're not punching, it's like you have no choice, but you have to do it because a lot of times it's not a choice anymore. You can't stay and wait for things to happen. So you got to make things happen, like what you did with this talk. I think it's interesting. I was watching some of the show. I said, wow, people need to hear from other people. And I think the nicest thing is that, from this business or whatever business I've done, it's actually the community that we make. Meeting the people abroad, overseas, and having to meet people from different walks of life, running different business is always very inspiring. Just you think that you're very tough, you meet somebody else who do even harder and say, oh, okay, actually you're not too bad. You got your family, you got a business, it's fine. Next day you wake up, let's start all over again. Yeah.
And actually, that's the beautiful thing for every one of us. We get a fresh start every day.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Victor.
Hey,
Thanks
thank
for
you for
showing
having
up.
me.
Thank
Thanks.
you, Victor.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.